Are you ready for 15 of my favorite patriotic DIYs? Well, I've got them all together in this video for you. Let me know in the comments below, do you remember when I made them in the original video? Or is this your first time seeing them? Let's get started watching the video. We're gonna get started with this little chunky mason jar I got at Dollar Tree a Christmas or two ago. I ordered a whole case of them because I couldn't find them anywhere. And so I'm still using them, so that was handy. So I'm just going to give it a solid coat of white chalk paint. I'm taking some gray with the white still in my brush and just giving it a little bit of shadowing to give it a little bit of dimension. And you can do as little or as much of this as you like. Sometimes I go back in and add some more dry brushing later. I had this multi-pack of stars that I've used over and over and over with my Patriotic DIYs. And I think I got a multi-pack of them at Hobby Lobby. I'm painting some red and some blue with chalk paint. And going to lay those aside to dry while I go back to my jar. So I have this aluminum cookie sheet, baking pan, whatever you want to call it, from Dollar Tree. And I'm just going to cut out a little piece and trace around the top of this mason jar to create a lid. And you can just trace it and it makes like a little indentation. And it's real easy to cut a straight line because those little, divots in there are all in a straight line. So I don't want to keep those divots in there. So you can use a number of things to smooth those divots out. You could use a spatula, you could use that little scraper that came with the rub-on transfers, but I really prefer to use my Cricut scraper. Now I'm going to get a straight edge and I'm going to use my scoring tool. I think I'm using my scoring tool there. Nope, I'm using that little transfer thing. I'm trying to make some lines in it to, I'm going to change to my pencil. You just use whatever works. I'm going to make some little lines in there to make it look like those lines that are in the lid of a mason jar. So here we go. There it is. I'm trying to make it all however it's supposed to look, however I want it to look. I'm going to use some of this tacky glue because honestly, with the hot glue, that gets really hot. I do use it with the aluminum from time to time, but I'm going to use a little elephant chalk paint by Waverly, and I'm going to use a stencil brush because it's kind of chippy. And I'm just going to, dirty it up a little right after I protect my white paint with some painter's tape. And I'm just going to kind of brush it on, wipe it off, brush it on. Oh, need a little dry brush on there. I told you sometimes I go back and do that. Just give it a little dimension. Now I'm going to take some white chalk paint and dry brush with an old beat up brush because it was small. I needed a small one. And I'm just kind of dry brushing over these with no rhyme or reason. And it took me a minute to kind of get the rhythm of how I wanted them to look, but it doesn't even really matter if they all look the same. It actually looks better if they don't all look the same. Then I'm going back to that Aleene's tacky glue, craft glue, and I'm just randomly putting all these red, white, and blue stars in the mason jar. I kind of like them off to one side. You do it however you like to do it. But this is, where do I put that red one? Where do I put it? Nope, not gonna put it. Changed my mind. Okay, so that's what I'm gonna do. Now I'm gonna wrap some twine. I've been using this red, white, and blue twine on every project because I am in love with it. I got it on Amazon, and for the roll that I got, it's huge. It's a very good price. Now I'm gonna fray it, unroll it and fray it, and I tried to put a bow on. I can't remember if I decided I liked the bow or not. We'll see. It's been a minute since I did the DIYs. But I did like the way that it looked frayed and, doesn't that look cute? Yep, but I'm making a mess everywhere, so I got my little makeup brush out that I got from Dollar Tree, and I like to dust it off with that in case I have some paint or something on my hand. I don't get it dirty. Yeah, I think I decided that I like it like that instead of, well, what do I decide? I don't know. I don't even remember. I think, I don't know. know. What did I do here? I'm at a loss for words. I think I just added an extra piece. I added an extra piece of just the twine in there without the bow. Yep, looks cute. So that's what I decided to do. I have 3 little chunky pieces of wood. You could use any little pieces of wood that you have or something from Dollar Tree. These are just some little pieces that I have, and I have some red, white, and blue paint. I'm gonna paint 1 red, 1 white, 1 blue, and I'm also using that cookie sheet, that disposable cookie sheet. You get 2 in a pack from Dollar Tree, and I absolutely love using them on DIYs to get that metal look. And I did the sides, the top, and the back on these. And then once they were completely dry, I distressed them. I think I get that on video here in a little bit. But I'm gonna use my scraping tool to smooth out those bumps, little rivet bump things, because I wanna cut out some stars. Now I'm telling you that corrugation in the corrugated part of that cardboard makes it, can you see that those ridges that it makes in it? And I kind of like that. It makes it look like that sheet metal. So I'm using my Cricut scoring tool. It works great. Pencil works just as good. And I'm going to cut these stars out with my scissors, and it works great. Now I'm back to the elephant chalk paint for a little distressing, or it's not really, I don't guess it's distressing because it's making it look old. So it doesn't really stick to this aluminum tin very good, but just a little bit of it to make it look a little old is good. And then I'm gonna do a little brown paint to make it look a little rusty. I like the brown on there too. Now I'm gonna distress these little blocks of wood. I use my sanding block from Dollar Tree, and then when it gets old, I just get that sandpaper from Dollar Tree. That you get quite a few pieces of sandpaper in that pack. It's a really good bargain. And then I just wrap it around that block and hold it in my hand. Now I'm using this little scraps of burlap, and you could use some burlap of that wider burlap ribbon if you have that. And I just am fraying all the 4 edges and making it fit right in the middle. And I'm going to put a little hot glue on each piece of that and glue those down to each wood block as soon as I clean up my mess. And then I'm going to glue each star to the middle of the burlap. Easy DIY, but so super cute. And I use some more of that twine on these. So here I am deciding what colors I'm going to use. Do I want the blue on the red? Do I want the red on the blue? Nope, can't put the white on the white, so I better put the red on the white so I can put the white on the blue. The white's a little thicker. It's a little bit different. They didn't have it in the same brand as the red and the blue, or I ordered it at a different time. I'm not quite sure, but I just love this jute cord, jute twine in the different colors. They have it in so many different colors. And you can see those big, huge spools over there on the left of the screen. And they were like $6.99 for those huge spools. You can get them on Amazon. So here's the finished product. I think they are so cute. I hope you're enjoying this video. My name is Kendra and you're watching Late Night Creations. If this is your first time here, welcome. If you are a returning subscriber, hey, I'm glad you're here. Be sure that you hit that like, the thumbs up, and if you're not subscribed for some reason, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Let's get back to the video. Okay, so I'm gonna use 2 of these little chunky mason jars this time, and I'm just going to show you, because I haven't done this on a video in a while, that I'm just going to cover this whole thing with a glue stick. I'm going to use some of that brown packing paper that you wrap packages in to mail them, and put that on there. It sticks really good. This paper's kind of thin, and then I'm taking my X-Acto knife and just pressing really firmly all the way around. And that little mat I have underneath, you can get those at you can get small ones at Dollar Tree. I had ordered mine online on Amazon, and I melted it, so I cut it down and I use it to smaller pieces. Yeah, you can see that on a video that I did where I used my heat press on it and didn't have anything under it because I was being blonde at the moment. So I'm just gonna give these a good coat of navy sides all over, and then I'm gonna take some more of those little stars. These are all the same size, and I'm going to coat them on one side with white chalk paint. And I don't even care if it's a good solid coat, if they're all coated evenly and equally, because this is just one of those projects. And they're all gonna be the same. So now I'm going to make a little crate. So I've got these jumbo craft sticks, and I'll get these. I ordered these online on Amazon, but you can get them at Walmart in the craft section. So I'm gonna do half of them red, half of them white, and 3 of them blue. I did not record myself painting the blue ones, but I paint both sides of the craft sticks because you're gonna be able to see both sides. Now, I didn't record doing the top of this mason jar with the aluminum because I already showed you that in the previous, so you can rewind it and watch how to do that again if you forgot. So it's easy peasy. Wrap that twine around each one of them, and gonna just tie a little bow. Just gonna tie and then just do like a little shoestring bow. Just gonna loop it through there and tie a little shoestring bow on each one. I'm gonna do the exact same thing on both of them and just have some little tails hanging down. And then, what am I doing next? Yes, there's my painted sticks in blue. I'm telling you I painted them in blue because I didn't show you that. Now, I'm going to put the blue ones on the bottom. This is gonna be the bottom of our crate. And I used my ruler to measure to make sure that I got them all on there evenly because you know my favorite word, cattywampus. I can get things cattywampus real quick. That's what I do because, you know, I just like to just do it and then weep later when I didn't measure first. So we're gonna do red, white, like the stripes on the flag. I don't really know if red comes first or white comes first on the flag. I don't know. Anyway, we're gonna do a good coat of Mod Podge all over this whole thing so it'll be nice and protected. So if it gets dusty, maybe you guys don't get dust at your house, but I live in the country and we have dust at our house, and I like to dust. I don't like to dust, but I like for things to get dusted. So it works better if you have a little Mod Podge on it. So there's the final product. You can put a plant in it. You could use it for your napkins and your plasticware. So next to DIY, I picked this up at Dollar Tree. I peeled that sand dollar off. I'm going to dry brush a heavy coat of brown paint, it's apple barrel, I think. I don't even know what color it is. It's brown. I write on the lids. You can see I write on the lids the colors so that when they're in the drawer, I can see the top of it. I'm using my scoring tool to kind of see how much I need to cut off. I use my paper cutter to cut it off, and I cut it a little bit short, so part of it that I cut off, I'm just going to use that piece. Then I decided that I needed some cardstock behind it in case you could see through it, because this came from one of the Dollar Tree calendars. It was for the month of July, and they're thin. The pages are super thin, but they fit really nicely in these pictures. And so I'm gonna put that, attach that right back on there. Now Sammy over at Unicorn Dust Designs had the idea. She came up with the idea. Well, I don't know if she came up with it, but I watched on her video that these calendar pages fit in this particular frame perfectly. So I had to try it out, and there you go. There's that little tassel I tried to use in a previous video on a banner, and it was way too short, so it worked perfect. this is here we go with that cookie sheet again, and a sign from Easter, and it was peeling off, and it peeled off really nicely, so I just went ahead and peeled it. So I'm going to trace around that with my scoring tool, and you have to be careful with these things because this aluminum can be sharp, and it's worse than a paper cut, y'all. It's happened. In fact, in one video, I have a Band-Aid on because I cut myself with that aluminum, so be careful. So I cut it, and then I'm kind of measuring it to make sure that it's right, and I am using hot glue, but be careful because I do have my finger protector on because that is hot with that hot glue. It does, you'll see me in a little bit. I get my t-shirt, there we go, because it's hot. So I've gotten it all glued down now, and I'm gonna take my X-Acto knife and trim off the excess, and then I'm gonna take my little tool and bend it around so that, you know, it's not dangerous and cut. Now this ruler was perfect for the stripes. We're gonna make a flag out of this. Now I'm using my scoring tool. To score, you could use a pencil if you don't have a scoring tool. And then I'm gonna make a portion of it for the blue and continue with the stripes. And like I said, I should have looked at a flag to see how the red and the blue, white go to make it, you know, politically correct. Seriously politically correct. But I just decided to start with the red. So I'm using a makeup sponge and some red chalk paint to go in between those lines. And if it's not perfect, that's okay, because this is a very rustic DIY. And then I decided to make that blue section a little bit smaller than I had originally traced it out. And then I'm just gonna put the blue chalk paint on there. And it, you know, like I said earlier, the paint doesn't adhere very well. So I just did the best I could. And I really like that it shows through because I want this to look like a metal sign. So it's okay if the colors kind of touch each other. And so now I'm using some more of that brown paint from Apple Barrel or one of those acrylic paints. I don't know. And I'm just giving it a little rusted effect. I did a little bit around the edges and kind of like where the paint would meet, and a little bit where maybe I didn't make the paint meet real well. And I don't know why I did two different browns maybe. Now I'm using one of those sticks that has the sponge on it that you paint with, and I'm just dipping it in my white paint and making some circles for the stars. And I hope this doesn't offend anyone that I didn't do stars. I'm doing circles to represent them, and I'm showing you how I buy my Mod Podge. And I've had this for over 2 years, and you can see that I've barely used any. I'm showing you with my finger how much of it I've used, and I just pour it into this smaller container. I get nut butter in these containers. You can see I eat a lot of that nut butter. I am vegetarian, and so I eat a lot of nut butter. And so now I'm covering it with Mod Podge to seal it so all that paint doesn't scratch off, because it comes off that metal really easily. So whatever your preferred method of sealing is, it definitely needs to be sealed. And we're just gonna put a twine hanger on the back. I'm gonna put a little amount of hot glue, and then I'm gonna put a lot of hot glue and just use a little piece of fabric. I've been using this, it's a canvas drop cloth. Make it your own. So all 3 of my DIYs today came from Whiskey and Wit DIY. She does amazing DIYs, so check out her channel, and we'll talk about her a little bit more later in here. So this was her DIY that she made, this little planter, so cute, patriotic, and I wanted to make it. So I got these paint stir sticks and I glued them together just like she did in her video. Now, I'm going to link her video in the description box below to this DIY, and all 3 of these DIYs were in the same video. It was a compilation of her favorite patriotic videos from a year ago, and I just happened upon it and I loved all of them, and I just picked my 3 favorites. Now I put these diagonal just like she did, but when I started putting my blocks to put them together, my edges didn't fit real good. I made sure that I had enough room to put them together like this, but I didn't leave enough room to put them. So I ended up having to cut them down a little bit. I don't know if that's making sense at all. But you can see where that bottom diagonal, when I put them together, is not leaving enough room for another block. Or the top diagonal. Really, any of the diagonals, there's not enough room. I did put one at the very top, right there. But when I go to the other side, see, I used a tiny little square block because I didn't have enough room. And I did end up cutting them, having to cut them down once I already had them glue on there. So just be aware of your space. I struggle with that, guys. So got it all glued together and it worked out just fine. You know, sometimes I struggle with that and I just keep working until I make it work. That's part of DIYing. Gave it one good coat of Rust-Oleum chalk paint in white. I taped it off. I do not know why I'm speeding through this so fast, but I taped it off, strapped it off. I used one piece of tape to measure the distance, and then I taped the top off for the blue part. And then I'm just using this sponge brush because in hers she didn't put full coverage and I loved it, and it made it look more rustic. So I didn't get full coverage. I did do 2 coats of the blue because it didn't get enough coverage, but I really didn't do 2 solid coats because I didn't really care if it was full coverage. I loved that it was a little rustic, and I didn't care if there was a little bit of bleeding. I didn't want a lot of bleeding, but I didn't care if there was a little bit. Now I made a stencil with my Cricut. Now you can use some sticker stars, that would be just as cute. And I was very careful, and I used my makeup sponge to sponge on some white stars. And when I do the peel and reveal, guys, watch. What? Oh my gosh. Yeah, like what to do now. So I sanded it down, started over. We just keep going, right? Name of the game. So I just painted over it again and let it dry. Luckily I had done the small section first. That was the one good thing I did. And then I realized I need to tape this off so that I don't make a mess, because I'm really bad about just going in like a bull in a china closet and thinking I can do this when, you know, I can't. So I tape it off. I give it another good coat of blue paint to cover all those white stars up. And we start over. Just put me back in time a little bit and taught me a lesson. I don't really know what the lesson was because I don't usually have that problem with the paint peeling up. So anyway, so now I just use a piece of cardstock and I tape it down. I do this a lot when I stencil, but especially if it doesn't have to have crisp edges. So cardstock, I'm just holding it down with my fingers on the edges and voila, it works. Look, it looks great. Now I'm just taking my t-shirt. If you've watched any of my videos, you know I like t-shirts, and I just gave it a good wipe down, and look, it's so cute. Okay, next DIY. But first I'm going to tell you about Sammy over at Unicorn Dust Designs. She is funny. She does lots of wood rounds. She's amazing, and she's the host. You'll find her linked in the description box below too. All right, here's Whitney's DIY. She striped and starred her jars. I did mine a little differently. You'll see, but I really love how mine turned out too. You know, we're making them our own. Hers was just an inspiration for me. And I got these little jars. Someone gave them to me, and so I just did them red, white, and blue. I did not get the white dry brushing. I cannot talk, I'm sorry, on there. I gave my little wooden heart a coat of Mod Podge so that the paint did not run. And I tried to write USA on there in red, white, and blue because I thought that would be so super cute. Well, guess what? You couldn't see the A. So I got this cute scrapbook paper out and I cut it out. Now, you could easily paint that heart red and just put USA in white, or you could do whatever you wanted to, but I thought this would be cute. So I just glued that scrapbook paper down on that heart right over that USA. Nobody even knows it's there. Poked a hole through that paper where that hole was, put some twine in it, and hang it on that white jar. Now, here you go. I forgot to dry brush around the neck of the jar, probably because I was holding it there, but I did do a lot of heavy white dry brushing, and then I did a little bit of cream dry brush on the white one. Now I'm just wrapping some twine around the top. You've seen lots of DIYs with this technique. It's nothing new unless you're brand new to crafting, and if you are, well, it's very simple. Now I'm just going to loop this little heart through the top of here, let it dangle, get it all situated. I'm going to stick a little hot glue up there just to make it sit where I want it to. I think I actually did go back and do that. Wrap twine around each one of these jars and just put a little knot there. Very rustic, very cute. Let me know what you think. I think Whitney's were really cute, but I think mine were really cute too. Okay, next. She made this banner, and you know how I love my banners. So I was given this burlap ruffled ribbon, and I ironed it. So I got it out and I ironed it because it was all ruffled. So I made these, pretty sure they were 9 inches. I don't know, you can look on my little mat there and see. And I made 9 of them. And then I took some painter's tape and I used one little piece as the guide and then another long piece so that I didn't paint it. So that was representing my white, which I didn't do white. We just left it burlap. But then I put some cardboard under it so I didn't make a mess. And I just used my little handy dandy sponge and sponged on some red. And it worked really good. It covered good enough. You know, it's rustic. And so you don't want it to be too covered. And then I did every other one red and every other one blue. So look how pretty that is. Look how pretty. And then I took a sponge and I just sponged. This is a sponge brush. And then I just sponged blue all over it. Just kind of haphazardly until I got as much coverage as I wanted on there. You can do as much or as little as you want. Again, it needs to be kind of rustic. You could even water this paint down a little bit to do this. I think that would work really good if you didn't want as much coverage. And then I took some more of that white cardstock and I'm just kind of holding it down with my fingers. I did tape it around the edges and giving it a good coat of that white, and it turned out good. Now I made a tassel with this red, white, and blue twine I ordered off Amazon, and my last Patriotic video I did, I used it. If you saw that one, if you didn't, go watch it. It was a look for less. It's a good video. And I'm sorry I'm out of frame here. I'm not real sure what I was thinking. I was trying to concentrate, I guess. And so I made this with my hand. I made this little tassel, and it ended up being way small. I'm not sure what I was thinking. They turned out really cute, and I ended up using it on another DIY later in another video. Yep, there's another Patriotic video coming out. 3's a charm, right? So stay tuned for that one next week. Another way to get, okay, so the tassel, wrap it around your hands and then loop a string through the top and tie it off so that they're tight. I'm keeping it taut down there too so they don't get it all willy-nilly. And so then we're going to tie a knot in the top. I'm not sure what I'm doing there. Okay. Go ahead and tie it, Kendra. There we go. Tie a knot in the top really tight. Get it nice and tight. Okay. Tight. For some reason, I only did the red strings on that one. I'm not sure what the rhyme or reason was to that. There's not always a rhyme or reason to everything I do. Okay. Smooth it all out nice and straight. And I made sure that I was putting it in the same spot as the other one. Now, I sped this one up good. Wrap it around the top there so you have a little top knot. Trim it down. Make sure it's all nice and straight again. Cut those ends. Now, it was all wrinkled, so I put some water on it, and it straightens it right out like wrinkle and release. And trim it up. Oh, they were short. You can see the long ones I made up there. I'm going to give you a little instruction on that in just a minute. So I took this twine, put it in a large needle with a large eye hook, and then we're just going to feed this twine. We're going to just feed it through the holes of the burlap. And yeah, just make a banner, you know, just feed it through there, through one and then through the other, and I'm not going to show you the whole thing. I'll just show you a couple of them. Put it through there, trying to figure out, yep, make it even. That's always nice when it's even. And it's not all cattywampus. You know, we say some really weird things in the South. Cattywampus. I don't even know where that came from. And then I do kind of fray the ends so that it looks has a little frayed, ragged edge. I think that looks cute. And Whitney did hers that way too. Whitney does some amazing DIYs. You should definitely check out her channel, and definitely check out Sammy. She's about to have a baby, and so she needs all the love she can get over on her channel. She does a lot of wood rounds. If you like wood rounds, go check out her channel. She does a lot of wood rounds. She does a lot of really she does some shabby chic, which is totally my style. I absolutely adore Sammy. Anyway, go check out their channels. They'll be linked in the description box below, as well as the playlist of everybody who's on this playlist. And so check them out. So you can see that I used that box to wrap the tassel around to make it longer. And then I just put one on each end, and then I just frayed the edges, the ends of this. Tied a knot in the end, tied the tassel on the end, and it is done. Okay, tell me which one of these three is your favorite. The first DIY is this sign I saw on the Kirkland's website, and they wanted $49.99 for this. Oh, we know we can make it for less than that. So I picked up this sign at Dollar Tree, and I'm going to use the back side of it, but we're going to cover that front side with some paper. So we're just going to give this back side a good coat of white chalk paint. Actually, I did 2 coats, but I'm only showing you one, and I'm not real sure why I showed you me painting the whole thing. But anyway, I gave this back side 2 good coats of white chalk paint by Rust-Oleum in the color Linen. And I like to finish out the backs, so on the back side I just covered it with that brown like packing paper, like you would wrap a package if you were going to mail it. So that finishes off the back and makes it look nice. I dry it with my heat tool, give it a second coat, then I divide it as evenly as I can, and then draw the lines on there and kind of smudge it to make it look a little bit like shiplap. Then I made this decal on my Cricut. Now, if you don't have a Cricut, you can use other kinds of stencils. This is not a decal, I'm sorry, it's a stencil. So I made this stencil on my Cricut. And you can find stencils at Dollar Tree, at Walmart. You can use stickers. You can use your own handwriting. There's all different ways that you can do lettering on signs. I just chose to do this. So I'm going to use different colors of the different words to try to make it look like the sign that was on the Kirkland's website. So I mixed my own color of blue paint because I didn't think ocean was dark enough, and the navy was a little too dark, I think. So I mixed it. I'm going to use some crimson by Waverly and that aged gray by Rust-Oleum. And I'm going to use these makeup sponges. Bargain Bethany turned me onto that long years ago when I first started watching her to paint with the makeup sponges. They work great, especially when you're stenciling. So I'm going to use this. Maybe I am using the navy by itself. Yep, sure am. So you just pounce, 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 dab, dab, dab. And you can do 2 coats if you need to, if you don't get it on there. This paint was a little bit thin, and I did 2 coats of it on there. And then I did the gray on the stars, and I'm going to do gray on Freedom as well. And I'm going to do Family in red. I'm not sure if I get all that on video. Sometimes I skip some of the painting because it's pretty straightforward and simple. Nope, I'm going to show you how to paint the word family. Just dab, 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 dab on your stencil. If you choose to use stencils to do this. And it was kind of challenging to decide where to put those lines and to line all of this up. So yeah, it might be easier to just freehand it, but I wanted it to look pretty much like the sign from Kirkland's because it is the look for less. So you want it to look as close as possible when you want to copy that, if you want it to look like the stores. So my fonts are not exactly the same, but it is the look for less. So I'm crossing my fingers when I take this stencil off that it works out good. And it does. It does peel off that white chalk paint a little bit, but I can go back in and touch that up without a problem. I do find with the Rust-Oleum white, linen white chalk paint, that happens to me a lot. Not necessarily with other paints, but with that white, it happens to me a lot. But it's really not a problem. I just go back in with my white and touch it up. And I've got these white paint pens that I'm going to use, and I end up using the Sharpie. It was given to me by someone, so I have no idea where it came from. The other ones I got on Amazon, but where that navy blue bled, I'm going to use it. Oh, and the red, I guess, the red too. I'm going to use it to touch up instead of using a paintbrush. It worked like a charm, and it has a very fine tip. Those other two paint pens, the tips are kind of fat. And you can see that I've touched it, all of it up, and it turned out really nice and crisp. And I touched that up. It's still a little bit wet. Looks good. Thumbs up. I'm going to reattach the little twine hanger that came with it. I love that those have the little plastic tabs on there and you can reattach them. And here is the final product. So did we get the look for less? Yes. Kirkland's has this cute decor piece for $99.99. That's ridiculous. We can make it for less. So this is a large piece of wood that came off of an old swing set that fell apart in our yard. So I had my husband save all the pieces, and guess what? We're DIYing with it. So I sanded it all down and filled in the cracks with some wood filler, and some of the cracks were pretty big, so I puttied them up pretty good. And I'm not real sure, maybe you can leave a comment below to tell me why my wood filler cracks. Maybe it was because I used too much, but it shrank in there and left, it cracked. But maybe you can tell me what I did wrong. So now I'm going to drill holes in there to put our fuse in, and I'm going to give all three of those wood pieces 2 coats of this white chalk paint by Rust-Oleum in the color linen. It's called linen. I call it white, but it's linen. And then I taped off the tops of them with some masking tape. You could use painter's tape, whatever you have. And I'm painting it in navy by Apple Barrel. I love this paint. I love this color. I love navy. I love all things blue. And now I'm painting the bottom, not the top. So I end up having to drill another hole in there. If you hang around with me long enough, you'll see that I just haphazardly do things sometimes, and I have to go back and redo or fix my mistakes. So now we're going to peel the tape off, have some nice clean lines, but for some reason this white chalk paint peels up with the tape or the stencils or whatever, like I mentioned earlier. So we just touch it up and it's no problem. Now I'm going to use my painter's tape, and we're going to create those stripes, those red and white stripes that are up and down, vertical. And see that crack? You could see it right before I put that tape on. If you didn't see it, back up and look at it, because that's where my, I wanted to say wood filler cracked. But it's okay because I just kind of filled it in with a little paint and it turned out okay. So now I'm going to take my Crimson by Waverly and just paint in between there. Now, if you can see what I'm doing, I did not tape off the top up there, and you're going to see when I realize that what I did. So I'm going to do 2 coats of the red as well. Right there, I realized I did not tape that off. So I'm trying to wipe that paint off. I think because it was blue and my painter's tape was blue, I didn't realize that I didn't tape it off. I didn't need to tape it off. I don't know. I'm such a ding-dong sometimes. So anyway, it's okay, because guess what? We just go back and we put some blue paint on it, and nobody knows the difference when you're done, unless you've watched this video. So anyway, now I put the tape on there, and it's gonna be okay. Yeah, I do that. I do that a lot. I do like ding dong stuff a lot because I am blonde. I do color my hair blonde, but I am blonde all the way. So here we go. Not sure why I'm struggling there with that, but I'm gonna do, now I said I did 2 coats, but I think I did 1 good coat, and then I just kind of go back and touch up where I feel like it needs maybe a second coat on just parts of it, if it needs it. Now I'm kind of, can you see how I'm going across that tape? I don't know, I feel like it doesn't bleed as bad when you do that, and then I would just lightly went down in the center. But you do however it works for you when you paint across the tape. So I'm going to reuse this Dollar Tree painter's tape because I don't want to, waste any money, because I'm trying to do this look for less. And you can see that white. Can you see that white paint up on the top of that blue? And you can see the pieces over to the right, the top blue parts have some of that on there too. I think you see that white on my table, on the paper on my table. I think it just kind of acted like chalk and got on there. I don't know, but I go back and touch it up and it came off really easily. So that wasn't a problem, but I need to start with a clean surface every time so that doesn't happen. After I painted the white, I should have gotten a clean surface. So here we go, peeling it off. You can see a little bit of that white paint peeled off with the painter's tape, but it's okay. We just go back and touch up. Not a problem. See, there's that crack I was telling you about. So when I touched up, I filled in that crack with a little bit of white paint, and it looks fine. I'm totally happy with how it turned out. Okay, so now I made a decal with my Cricut, and you could use stickers from the Dollar Tree or Hobby Lobby or Walmart. And I'm not showing you how I do all this because it's the same step and the same procedure with all of it. Now I'm doing the stars with my tweezers because I don't know why. I just wanted to. And so I just wanted to place them where I wanted them. I don't know why. I do the things I do sometimes. And so I'm going to put these big stars on the sides, like the ones in the picture of the ones from Kirkland's. And then I'm taking this jute twine that's wired that I got at Dollar Tree. And you know that jute comes away from the wire. And so I just like to hot glue it down to it. I just put a little hot glue on there and twist and pinch it. And it stays on pretty good once you do that. So I use my little silicone fingers that you get at Dollar Tree. Then I'm going to fill that little hole that I had to drill again because, I painted the wrong end. And then I have a little fuse, and they turned out so cute. So did we get the look for less? Yes. Our last DIY was on Amazon for $20.99. We can make it cheaper. So I found these at Dollar Tree for $1.25, and I just cut it down into 3 pieces, and then I had a little piece of scrap wood. So I'm going to paint these red, white, and blue, and you don't have to see me paint all of them because you know how to paint. So red, one white, one blue. And I really am enjoying doing all this patriotic stuff because I was raised in a very patriotic family. So then I'm going to make this little flag. I'm just using some little vinyl strips that I had scraps. You could use painter's tape, you could use masking tape, and I just taped it off and then painted it red, then taped it off, painted it blue, and I didn't show you that I put some little white stars that I cut with my Cricut out of white vinyl. I don't know why I lost that footage. And then I lost some other footage too. I don't know what happened to it. But I used this stencil and stenciled this one white and It's the same procedure for all 3 little blocks, but you know, just use the stencil it on, and then take all that off. And I did that for all 3 of them. I do not know what happened to the footage, but like I said, it's the same for all 3 of them, just different colors. And then I'm taking a little sanding block and I'm just sanding it down to make it look a little bit old and rustic. Then just gluing the 3 pieces together. This was the easiest thing. If you love to paint, it was just the easiest thing ever. Did we make this look for less? Yes. All the books in today's video came from Dollar Tree. So I'm starting out with these 2, and I'm going to rip the front cover and the back cover off, leaving this nice, just neutral cover on it that looks a little old, and I don't really know what that look is, but I like it. I'm going to get a pair of tweezers and peel off all the excess that I couldn't get off with my hands and just make it all nice and neat. And then there's what they look like, and we're not going to worry about that print on there because I'm just going to glue those 2 together. Just put some hot glue on them and glue them together, and they will stay together just fine like this. And technically, if someone still wanted to read the books, they could, because that was just the extra page with the extra writing. Now, I've got some scrapbook paper, some Patriotic scrapbook paper that I got at Hobby Lobby. I love this scrapbook paper. I'm going to trace out the size of the book. This is going to be put on the top or front of the book. I'm going to cut it with my scissors, and then I'm just going to put some Mod Podge on the book, on the front cover, that little page of the book. When I decide which way it all needs to be, make sure that I'm getting it the top on the top, the bottom on the bottom, and the scrapbook paper the direction that I want it. I'm going to put a good coat of Mod Podge on here, and then I'm going to let it dry completely. Once it's completely dry, I'm going to position my scrapbook paper on here, and then I'm going to take my little mini press and I'm going to iron it on there. Not a lot of pressure. It is high heat. If you use your iron, just make sure that you don't have any steam. This reactivates that Mod Podge and glues it down on there with no wrinkles. Now, I'm just practicing because I'm going to use my own handwriting to write God Bless America. Now, I don't have horrible handwriting, but I don't have the best handwriting. But I don't mind it because I like that it looks a little organic. So I'm just doing it for spacing. I'm going to practice, and then I'm going to write it on here with a pencil, and then I can go back with my marker and go over that so that I can get my placement, because look at that little S. If I had made that little S with a marker, I would have been so sad. So I can erase it, and then I can make the S right. Do you see that I rest my pinky? I do that a lot when I paint also. I will see how I rest my pinky up there. That will stabilize my hand so I'm not shaking and that it stays stable. Okay, here I go with the marker, and I'm just going to make some of the edges a little thicker than others and just trace over those letters. I'm just tracing over the pencil marks. So I'm not even like really trying to write the words. That's why I can turn it sideways. In fact, it was easier sideways because I wasn't really trying to actually write it again. I was just tracing over the pencil marks. And then I took, so they're making it a little bit thicker in some places. No rhyme or reason to what's thicker. Just did it. And then I'm going to take my sandpaper and very lightly sand over the words. And then I'm going to sand the edges to get all the excess scrapbook paper off. And it also gives that paper just a little bit of a ripped edge, raw edge. And then I'm going to take the Weathered Wood by DIY and just dry brush around the edges. And this is really porous, so it's going to soak it up good. And then I did it, you can see there on the scrapbook paper, I did it around the edges of the book all the way around. So now just taking some twine, I'm pretty sure I got this at Dollar Tree, and going to just knot it, and then I'm going to make a finger bow. I've tried to do this slow enough. This is in real time. I didn't speed it up so you can see what I'm doing. So if you want to learn how to make this simple little bow that's super easy, just rewind and rewatch and practice until you can do it, because it took me a hot minute before I learned how to do this bow. But it's super easy. I don't use it on every project, but it is so quick and easy. I absolutely love it. And then I just twist and pull and poke until it looks like I want it to. You can do 2 loops, you can do 6 loops, you can do 20 loops, however thick you want your bow. Now I'm pretty sure I glued that before I got my strings all where I wanted them, but there we go. And now I'm going to just glue that little bow right on top. Then I decided I wanted a little star in the middle, and I had gotten this pack of stars for a different project last year from Amazon, and I didn't use very many, so I have a bunch of them left. And they're the cutest, tiniest little laser cut wooden stars, and I'm just going to glue them right there, and I think this turned out adorable. Along with the books in this one, I'm going to be using this craft paper roll from Dollar Tree. It's in the mailing section where you get the packaging things, and I'm going to just make a book cover. Now, if you have a better way to make the book cover, be sure and do it. And I'm going to show you all the steps that I took to cover this book. It turned out great. There may be a better way to do it, but this is how I did it. It really reminded me and kind of took me back to the days when we had book covers on our books at school. Leave me a comment and let me know if you remember the book covers. We had the brown ones, and we had to put the book covers on our books, and we would get in trouble if we didn't have book covers on our books. And then we had some white ones that had advertising on them. So I guess the different stores in town could sponsor to probably pay for the book covers. I don't really know. I was in elementary school, but I remember Dairy Queen would have an ad on there, and some of the department stores in town. I grew up in a really small town, so yeah. So I'm just folding it. You can just see what I'm doing. I'm going to cut this on the spine, and then I'm just going to tuck that down inside eventually. I'm going to do it on both ends. Sorry, part of this is out of frame because I was really just trying to get it up there where I could see it and figure out what I was going to do with it. Honestly, it was kind of a fly by the seat of my pants because our book covers already had the lines where you were supposed to cut. I loved covering books. I would cover all my friends' books, or the boys didn't like to cover their books. I would cover their books for them because I really enjoyed it. So I'm just going to use a little bit of masking tape to wrap this like a present or a gift because you are not going to see this part. And I decided I needed more than 2 hands to do this job. So I'm going to rip a few pieces of tape and just stick it down here on my scissors that are laying there. And then those pieces of tape will be ready. I can just reach over there and grab them. That's kind of what I do when I wrap gifts at Christmas. I do have had one of those little dispensers that you wear on your wrist, but it kind of annoys me. So anyway, I probably shouldn't have shown both sides of this, but I guess I did. I was editing because I am late night. Night is my last name with a K, but it's just a play on words, but I am a late nighter. But lately, I was sick at the beginning of the month, and since then, I've had a hard time getting my energy level back. So the old gray mare ain't what she used to be. So anyway, I probably was dozing off about this time while I was editing. Okay, so here it is, all nice and tidy. I did both books the same way. They look great, if I do say so myself. I'm just going to glue them together, same way I glued the other books together. A little bit of hot glue, and it's going to hold these paper books. You could do this with brown paper sacks. You could do it with anything. You could do it with patterned paper if you wanted. Now, I did this free printable. I got it online. I will see if I can find the website and put the link to the website in the description box below. And she had some really cute little vintage. I just Googled vintage Patriotic free printables. And I thought this was so cute with the little children. And I don't know, I just liked it. There were a lot of them I liked, but I really liked that one. And it wasn't big enough to just put on the front of the book, so I had this little wooden tag, and I mixed a little bit of layered chocolate. I mixed a little bit of crinoline in with my layered chocolate because I wanted it to be kind of like a stain, but I knew I couldn't use the Antique Wax by Waverly and use Mod Podge and iron it and do all the things because of the wax. So I decided to use this paint, and I'm just doing kind of a heavy dry brush and then wiping it with a baby wipe. And I love the way this color turned out. And I'm glad that I overmixed. I had mixed it for a previous project, and I'm glad I overmixed because I've really been using it. Now I'm putting the Mod Podge on the back of this image, and I'm going to let it dry completely. And in the meantime, I'm going to take my sanding block, and I'm just going to sand the edges of this so that it looks a little worn. I'm trying to make this look a little bit vintage and a little bit rustic. And then I'm going to get all the dust off, clean it off good. And then now that this is completely dry, I'm going to lay it on there. And you guessed it, we are going to iron it on. This is my favorite way to Mod Podge. No mess, less mess, no wrinkles. It's smooth. It feels like it's that you bought it on there like that. And then I'm going to take my sandpaper and I'm going to just sand around the edges of the image just a tiny bit so that it looks a little bit worn. It didn't really do a whole lot, but it just enough. You know, sometimes too much is too much and not enough is not enough, and that was just right, like Goldilocks. Now I'm going to take my DIY clear wax and I'm going to wax this, and I want you to notice how much this brings out those colors in that image. Look at that little piece of paper. Would you look how pretty that looks? Okay. I know y'all always say you like it when I leave in my boo-boos. So here you go. This one's just for you. I made these little stencils on my Cricut, and I thought, oh, I'm going to use some Old School by DIY. I'm going to just randomly kind of put that on there so it'll look old, and look. That's not what I was going for. Oh, boy. Yep, there I am. Hand in the face in the hand. Okay, so this is what we do when we're creative. We fix our boo-boos. All is not lost. I went to the scrapbook paper bin where I keep all my scraps, and I found this perfect piece of scrapbook paper, perfect color. I cut it to fit over that. Wait till you see what I do with this. I cut two the same size. Got out my corner rounder. If you don't have one of these corner rounders, you get yourself to Hobby Lobby or somewhere and get you one, because oh my gosh, I use this thing all the time. It just makes everything look a little better. These kind of look like tongue depressors, I'm not going to lie, but not when I get done. So I'm going to take a little bit of that Old School and that makeup sponge, and I'm just kind of dabbing it around on there because I want it to look a little worn. Now let's try this again. I'm going to do it on here before I adhere them. This is that Old School, and then I decide I need some masking tape on it. So at some point I put some masking tape on there because I was having to be way too careful. It was taking way too long. So yeah, I'm going to put some masking tape so I can just go to town. Well, I did speed this up, so I'm really not going that fast. I know y'all are smart enough to figure that out. But I didn't really want this to be like complete full coverage. If it was, fine. If it wasn't, fine. If it bled a little bit, okay, because I'm kind of going for that, you know, rustic, old, vintage look. I love how that turned out. I don't even care that there's a little bit of paint on there. And why I picked English and History as the books, don't know. Just what I picked. Then once it was completely dry, I took my sanding block and just sanded the paper down a little bit. And then just, you know, sanded my books down a little bit. Just the paper just looks good when it has a little, it's just a little bit roughed up when you're trying to go for that look. Now I decided that I was going to just use my purple school glue and just get a bunch on there. And this paper was cardstock. It's really thick and it didn't want to like go around the shape of the book very good. I had to really work with it. And I decided that was for the birds. So next one, I formed it a little bit so that it was, you know, had a little bit different shape. got out my Alene, however you want to say it, tacky glue. And mine is super thick because remember, I had the freeze back in December. It got super thick. It didn't, I wouldn't say it ruined it, but it made it super thick. But I love it because I can just paint it on there and it's super thick and it dries quick and it adheres well. So we're going to use that to do this one, and you'll see that it goes on much nicer. Yes, it sticks much better. A lot less worry. Then I had these adorable teeny tiny brads left over from some scrapbooking supplies. And so I thought how cute it would be to have one on there. Like it looked like, you know, the book had been recovered or fixed, and that was how they fixed it. You know, because we used to repair stuff, not throw it away. So I decided to just put those in. I'm going to show you now how I did it. So I just barely pinched that. See that? I pinched those little pieces off that make the brads and left that tiny little stub. Then I put it in the book, and I could just mash it just to kind of get it in there a little bit. Then I just took these little pliers and just pounded it a couple times and they went in there. I did that on all 4 ends. Then I'd taken this beautiful crocheted lace that I love from Dollar Tree, and I got this red and blue and white twine on Amazon, and it is linked in my description box. So you just watch what I'm doing. I don't even know what it is I'm doing. I'm just kind of flying by the seat of my pants here. I don't think I even knew what I was doing. I always have an idea what I want to do, and then sometimes it turns out different, and I'm like, oh, well, that turned out better than I had anticipated. So I decided that I wanted one of those strings to go through this little banner, but I wasn't sure how I was going to do it because I knew all of them couldn't. So I just decided on the white one, which was a good choice, and then I just tie a little knot in the middle to keep it in place because I want this to be a seasonal book stack that I can switch out. So I can just take this, I can just slide all of this twine and lace off and then put something else on for another season, because that history in English can be for any season. So that was my goal, was to have it be interchangeable. So I'm not gluing any of this down. So I can put another one of those tags with something else, or I could just do something else entirely different. And I thought, well, I'll just do a simple little bow. Nope, that wasn't good enough. So I cut the ends off, and then I make a finger bow. Wrap it around my fingers. That's what I call a finger bow. I don't know. Maybe something else. And then I don't do the loop it through. I just made the loops, and then I used those strings to tie it in the center. And I lost my strings. Come on, focus. And then get it even right in the middle, and then I tied it really tight. And then I like to put, I don't know if I showed it on camera, but I like to put a drop of super glue right in the middle so it doesn't come undone. And here is the final result. What an happy accident. Don't you love the binding of that? Let me know if you like how this turned out. On this next book stack, we're going to do some molds. I'm going to use this amazing cast-in resin that sets up in 10 minutes. This stuff is amazing. Its name is amazing for a reason. It has A side and B side, which I call part A and part B. And you mix equal parts, and I have bought this little kit on Amazon as well. And you just mix it well and pour it in, and in 10 minutes, it is set up enough to pop it out. Now, to completely cure takes about 24 hours, but you can work with it in 10 minutes. So this has been probably a couple hours, maybe an hour, and it's perfect. So now I'm going to measure it because I'm going to have to cut it down a little bit. So I'm going to pick where in here I want to cut it. And it was a little bit long for the book, but I would rather it have been a little bit long than too short, and where I would have had to cut it in here, I didn't want it to be that short. So then I took this sanding block and I just sanded the edges around so it was smooth, and that worked out great. Now I'm not going to show you that I painted these books front and end, and I only did the top and the bottom book on the top and the bottom, and then I did the binding and a little bit on the inside in case it showed. And now I'm going to glue our finished resin pieces to the book. I don't know what I was trying to say. We're going to do it to the binding. I'm using that same Aleene's tacky glue. I'm trying to figure out which one is the bottom one, because this is going to be on the bottom because it's the largest, and I thought it would look the best. Now I'm going to use a little masking tape just to hold it, and then I propped it up until that glue dries. We had a birthday party to go to, so I just left it till we got back from the birthday party. When we got back from the birthday party, it was dry, and then it was ready to paint. Now I thought all three of them with those long rows of resin would be too much, so this one I thought was great for the center. It was 3 little tiny ones, and they fit on there, and some of those rows were too wide to fit on the binding of the book, so this is what I did. Sorry I was out of focus there for a minute, but this is what I did. So now I'm going to use this glue to glue my books together. I'm going to do this on the outside, and I'm going to use the hot glue in the middle. Don't ask me why. I don't always have a reason for why I do what I do. This glue is almost gone, and it's super thick. I usually store my glue, my wood glue and my Aleene's glue, any of these glues, I store upside down. I have a little, one of those little buckets that comes from Dollar Tree, and I have all those upside down in there because then it's just easy to get it to come out. Now my camera is trying to focus on the hot glue gun instead of what I'm doing, so that was kind of crazy, and that glue gun had not been turned on, so I had to use the other one. So here we go, press it down, and there we go. They're all 3, and I did distress a little bit on the pages, and I'm going to do a little bit of touch up here and just make sure that it's all even, and the tape pulled a little bit of paint off on one end, and then I'm going to paint over the resin pieces now because they were already white, but I want them to have the white paint on there so that they look like the rest of it for when we glaze it, because we are going, or wax it, we're going to put some wax on it, and they are going to look amazing. So just giving it a quick, I'm stippling to get down in the cracks and the nooks and the crannies, and then going over it so that there's not any of that paint pooling down in the crevices. Now I'm going to clear wax it first because I don't want the dark wax to be so dark. So I'm going to take this clear wax and an old piece of a t-shirt, one of my husband's old undershirts, and I don't know why, maybe it's just my husband, but the neck of his undershirts, they get all stretched out and they get, just old looking, and the rest of the shirt is fine. And he wants to keep wearing them, and I say, no, we need to get rid of that. So these are the shirts that I cut up because they're still fine. It's just the neck gets stretched out or the arms get stretched out or something. They just don't hold their shape that great. So now here I'm going to dry brush. Once I get the clear wax on and wipe it all off, I'm going to use the dark wax by DIY, and I'm kind of dry brushing it on and wiping it off until I get how much I want. This way I can control it. If I just go put a bunch of dark on, then I may get too much. I would rather layer it and get the amount that I want on here. Now I knew I wanted a little more on the binding of it, so I did go ahead a little bit heavier handed here and then just wipe it back because I wanted it to be dark down in those little crevices and the nooks and the crannies. Look at all that detail that comes out when you do this. I just love it. Now I'm going to take just some regular old twine, and this one I think has enough ornate decoration on the binding that I didn't feel like I needed to add a lot to the top of it. And sometimes I just like simple. I don't think you have to add bells and whistles to every little inch of space. But this also, I feel like I might be able to switch out. So I picked up this burlap at the Denton Vintage Market where I used to have my craft booth, and I absolutely love it. I ended up taking that edging off or recutting a piece. I didn't end up using this bow. But see, I'm trying to make it where I can take it off and add, maybe no, I think I glued it on. Never mind. But it would be easy because I glued it to the twine. But I think I could easily take it off and use it for another season. I'm not sure what I'm doing here. Oh, I decided I want to, oh, yeah, okay. Let's tie it in a knot first, and then we'll make our bow. I did not show you on camera that pretty sure I cut another piece, because do you see that white stitching on top but not on bottom? Drove me crazy. So I cut another piece, and then I unraveled a little bit of the burlap so that it was the edges were a little rough, and redid it off camera. I did not want this video to be so long, and so yeah. So put a little glue it down. And this burlap did not really want to glue down good. It kind of has a little bit of a finish to it, almost like it has a finish to it. And then I just did a simple little twine bow, and you can see here what I'm talking about on that bow. But I really, really like this one. I think it turned out really pretty. So let me know which one of these 3 book stacks is your favorite. Leave me a comment below if you like book stacks, if you like to decorate with them. Do you like to do them seasonally? That's it for today. I hope that you really enjoyed this video. And remember to be still and know that He is God.